Jamun Tiravanatari Tiravanatari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Bo Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Geraro Marava Kunja Bihari Geraro Marava Kunja Bihari Jaya Raro Marava Kunja Bihari Rara Marava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnupad Paramhansa Piri Vijayacharya Siddha Shishmani Divine Grace Abhaya Charan Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananda Guravaisha Vrinda Ki Nam Char Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Shikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadada Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Ki Dwarka Dham Ki Navadvip Dham Ki Jagannath-puri Dham Ki Jamuna Maya Ki Ganga Maya Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Sambhira Bhakti Vinda Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Sri Sri Radha Giridhari Ki Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki Gopremanandi. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the divine lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru Gauranga. Krishna Svedamo Bhagate Dhammakanani Visaha Kalaunasa Dashumesha Parano Kododita Narayana Namaskritchanaram Shaivam Narottama Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirdayat. The Bhagavatam is written as the sun. It is arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness of this age of Kali shall get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, you got something going on? One should first offer respects to the personality of God, Narayan, the Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, the goddess of the name of the Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we are on the 4th canto, chapter 4, text 19, correcto? What? But he did 2 verses. Naveda vadan unavartate mati. That's where we're supposed to be. Well, everybody's got devices. So we're actually on verse 19. Am I wrong? I could. Okay. So everybody's got that on there. And you can sit next to somebody who has a device. There's a novel concept. Anyway. Na Veda Vadan Anuvartate Mati Sva Eva Loke Ramato Maha Mune Gita Gatir Deva Manushayo Pratak Sva Eva Dharme Na Param Shepet Stita Naveda Vadan Unuvartate Mati Svaeva Loke Ramato Mahamunehe Yata Gatir Deva Manushayo Pratak Sveva Dharmena Param Shipet Stita Naveda Vadan Unuvartate Mati Sveva Loka Ramato Mahamunehe Yata Gatir Deva Manushayo Pratak Sveva Dharmena Param Shipet Stitaha Naveda Vadan Anuvartate Mati Sveva Loke Ramato Mahamunehi Yata Gatir Deva Manushayo Pratak Sveva Dharmena Param Shipet Stitaha Naveda Vadan Anuvartate Mati Hey, Bhakti Ed. Anybody else want to? Tagate Deva Manusha Yo Pratak Vaishnavi Yatagatir deva manushayo pratak. Swayeva dharmena param. Na, not. Vedavadan. Rules and regulations of the Vedas. Anuvartate. Follow. Mati. The mind. Sva. In his own. Eva. Certainly. Loke. In the self. Ramata. Enjoying. Mahamune. Of the elevated transcendentalists. Yata. As. Gati. The way. Deva Manushayayo. Of the men and the demigods. Pratak. Separately. Sve. In your own. Eva. Alone. Dharme. Occupational duty. Na. Not. Param. Another. Shipet. Should criticize. Stitaha. Being situated. Who's speaking? Other than Dravida, who knows? Who's speaking? Who's speaking? Sati. Who's she speaking to? Where are we? Yeah, we're the Yagya. That's a big event. She's just arrived on the scene and seen that Lord Shiva is not being respected. It is better to execute one's own occupational duty than to criticize others. Elevated transcendentalists may sometimes forego the rules and regulations of the Vedas, since they do not need to follow them, just as the demigods travel in space, whereas ordinary men travel on the surface of the earth. Also you say, it is better to execute one's own occupational duty than to criticize others. Elevated transcendentalists may sometimes forego the rules and regulations of the Vedas, since they do not need to follow them, just as the demigods travel in space, whereas ordinary men travel on the surface of the earth. Purport. The behavior of the most elevated transcendentalist and that of the most fallen conditioned soul appears to be the same. The elevated transcendentalist can surpass all regulations of the Vedas, and the other guy isn't following them. So one is transcending them and one is just not following them. So it appears that, hey, well, they're both not doing it. The elevated transcendentalists can surpass all the regulations in the Vedas, just as the demigods traveling in space surpass all the jungles and rocks on the surface of the globe. Although a common man who has no such ability to travel in space has to face all those impediments. Along with the most, hey Govinda, along with the most dear Lord Shiva, although the most dear Lord Shiva appears not to observe all the rules and regulations of the Vedas, he is not affected by such disobedience. But a common man who wants to imitate Lord Shiva is mistaken. A common man must observe all the rules and regulations of the Vedas, which a person who is in the transcendental position does not need to observe. Daksha found fault with Lord Shiva for not observing all the strict rules and regulations of the Vedas, but Sati asserted that he had no need to observe such rules. It is said that for one who is powerful like the sun or the fire, there is no consideration of purity or impurity. The sun can sterilize an impure place, where if someone else were to pass such a place, he would be affected. Classic example is a public urinal. Sun can completely, if it was left alone, the sun would eventually completely purify it. No smell, no nothing, But we certainly can't do that. The sunshine can sterilize an impure place, where if someone else were to pass such a place, he would be affected. One should not try to imitate Lord Shiva, rather one should strictly follow one's prescribed occupational duties. One should never vilify a great personality like Lord Shiva. Om Aganatamidandasya Gyanaganasalakhaya Jakshushmilitangina Tazane Shri Gurave Namaha. Just a little background. This self-immolation, this bursting into flames. Sariputta Prabhu, double PhD, professor at Cornell, so many qualifications, SUNY Binghamton, whatever it was. So many qualifications. Smartest person I ever met, materially. Outside of Srila Prabhupada, of course. He had a file of anomalies, scientific anomalies. It was just fantastic. He'd pull out a folder. So, lest we think, and this is only like the 1968, 69, so not so long ago. Might have even been in the 70s, so I guess that's long for you guys. But the young daughter of the finance minister of France, top deputy in the government, was at the top Catholic girls' school, was brushing her teeth, preparing to go to bed. You know, in the dormitory there, and they're brushing her teeth. All of a sudden, poof! She went up, burst into flames. All that was left was her toothbrush and her slippers, which were unsinged. It was in what is it, the Le Monde? Whatever that, that's top the paper of record in France. She just burst into flames. And Sadapuja says, while it's rare, every 10, 15 years it happens. And the amazing thing is, you know, if you've ever taken ashes to the Ganga, or ever held ashes, they'll rattle around. There's a couple bone chips that don't, you know, isn't it? Sounds like gravel. And I think, yeah, I'm making it up. And I think they burn at 2,000 degrees. There was nothing left of this young lady, yet, which means it was over 2,000 degrees, who knows what the heat was, and yet the toothbrush and the slippers were unsinged. I'm picturing the, whatever you call it, the head of the school, calling the parents and saying, got a sad report about your daughter here. So she must have, I don't know, not to get graphic, she must have burped past wind and sneezed at the same time, and somehow the life airs just, it was one of those things that happened to the yogis. It was a mistake, obviously, but somehow or the things just lined up, kaboom! She hit the, you know, perfect storm, and off she went. So these things are going on, what to speak of with the great mystics and yogis. That was just to get your attention. But these things do happen. There's a number of things to say in our allotted 14 minutes. We tend to, the ability of the human being to rationalize lethargy, so many things, our own, I mean, we're just expert at it. I'm certainly speaking for myself. We are a font of bogus rationales. And one of the favorite ones is, oh, well, he's not doing it. And well, he didn't do that. Well, he was at Mangal Arctic, and he was there. But let me ask you, what does someone else's status actually have? Why are we practicing Krishna consciousness? Is it competition? Is it we're trying to impress people that I'm more Krishna conscious than you. I'm a better brahmachari than he is, or I'm more austere than he is, or is that why we're doing it? What will that actually, will we take that with us to our next life? We are doing it because we want to become Krishna conscious. Therefore, we are our own self-regulator. I'm going to say that again. We're doing it because we want to become Krishna conscious. That's why we're doing these things. We're not doing it because, well, somebody's going to get on my case, or I'm not going to get Mahaprasadam, or, you know, or whatever it may be, to impress people. So therefore, we should do it because we want to do it. We want to become Krishna conscious. It doesn't matter. What is it Voltaire said? Tend to your own garden first. Instead of worrying about what everybody else is doing. Who cares? Oh, he's in Maya. Well, you know, so you should be in Maya too? Prabhupada wrote me a letter. I wrote complaining about some other devotees. I think I've mentioned this before. I was a brahmachari in St. Louis, and I wrote complaining. And Prabhupada wrote back, the first line in the letter was a classic. It said, I am very happy to hear that you are concerned about the spiritual advancement of your godbrothers. That wasn't on my radar at all. I was ticked off that they weren't up to standard and towing the line, and but that great compassion for their spiritual advancement. It was not my motivation at all. And Prabhupada immediately tweaked me. That should be your motivation. Anyway, Prabhupada said, the point Prabhupada made to me in that letter, it's in the letters book, the point Prabhupada made was that everybody's ultimately, does anyone know the example Prabhupada gives about flying an airplane other than Dravida? You can get all good instructions on the ground, isn't it? But ultimately, when you're up in the air, assuming it's a solo plane, you're on your own. So Prabhupada wrote them and he said, ultimately you have to become your own acharya. Doesn't matter what this person's doing or that person's doing or they're not doing or that. Someone said, oh, Prabhupada, some big devotee fell down. He said, don't be surprised who falls, be surprised who leaves. Don't be surprised who leaves, be surprised who stays. Be the one who stays. And who can, the world is full of fools. So everybody's mother probably said this. Well, so-and-so did it. What did your mother say? When you say, well, so-and-so, did this. I know what my mother used to say. What did you used to say? Exactly. Well, if Sammy jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge too? Isn't it? Yeah. Anyone's mother ever tell him that? Oh, definitely, I told it to my kids. And what kind of logic is that? Well, Balaram didn't get it from Mangalartik, although Balaram, I'm just using him as an example. He has a sterling record and is a spotless personality. I mean that. But, what's that got to do? What in the world has that to do with our own spiritual life? It's just hot air, that's all. We're just, what is it, even a bellows breathes? We're just, exuding is the right word? We're simply expelling. Is that what a bellows does? It expels the hot air. Oh, I know. But it inhales. But all we're doing is expelling hot air. All right. So we should do our own duty. We shouldn't be concerned. We should not be upset. Prabhupada wrote me. He said, you should be an example for others. I'm still working on it, obviously. But if you want to, rather than, well, so-and-so didn't do this, and so-and-so didn't do that, no, you didn't do that, you didn't watch the play. How do you teach people? Teach being what is the word other than Dravida Prabhu? And not to stifle you, but teach. What is the word that they use in the Vedas for teaching? My father used to say, don't do as I do, do as I say. And my response to him was, smart aleck that I was, well, if it's such good advice, why don't you follow it? But it's true. My father actually conceded. It's true. That, if it's, one does teach by words, okay, sure. But what does one actually teach by? You teach by example. So if we want to encourage others, do we pound on their head? Do we criticize? Do we look for, like Ramchandra Puri, who said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this sannyasi, is eating too many sweets because there were some ants loitering? If you've ever been to Puri, ants come out of the sand. There's ants in so many places. They just happen automatically. But he said, oh, this sannyasi's eating too many sweets. That was his business, to find. So do we find fault, or do we just, or what is the Vaishnava way to encourage others? We just talked about it. We set an example, and people are inspired. That's the natural, easy way. We're going to zip through this quickly. When one's Prabhupada gives, to imitate Lord Shiva, and Prabhupada gives the example of the demigods flying through space. Okay, you can dream about doing that, but in the meantime, you've got to walk on the ground. So, what is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, what sloka should we wear around our neck like a garland? Yeah, and what does the translation mean? What is the first line? Yeah, more lower than the straw in the street. It's insignificant. We should feel that we're insignificant. Who are we? What is it? Who are we? We're the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord who maintains the gopis. Of course, that's a very most exalted position. But Govardhan asked Srila Prabhupada. Govardhan was a temple president in Detroit. He asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, what are you praying when you go before the deities? Anyone know what Prabhupada was praying? He said, I'm praying to Radharani that I won't fall down. So this is a Vaishnava. We're not, this person's doing this or that, or this gossip, did you hear, did you know, or so-and-so did such a... No. We're focused on how can we advance in our own spiritual life. And this is why, one of the reasons why we need a spiritual master. There's so many rules and regulations. It's like a toolbox, and there's so many. But which one to follow? Is it silent meditation? You can make a case on the Vedas for silent meditation. You can, if you follow the Smarta system from the Padma Purana, it takes 3 hours to chant Gayatri. You got to purify your seat. You got to purify all the directions. You got to before you even say Gayatri. It was a turning point for me, because and we're not criticizing. I don't think. What do they call it? Mindfulness. Okay, great. We should be conscious. Sometimes we call it Krishna. In the ashram in Detroit, was in the basement, and from where you slept to where the bathroom was, there was a big pipe, a big water pipe, and it hung down. It was about 5 feet. And you're a new devotee, even, you wake up and you're going to go past water, you brush your teeth or whatever, and bang, I hit my head on that thing, I don't know how many times. And somebody wrote, Prabhupada said, don't be dull-headed. So we're supposed to be Krishna conscious, not Krishna unconscious, We're thinking of Krishna, but, we should also be practical. But sometimes that mindfulness can be too much self-absorption. So there was in my day, there was a guy, George Osawa, the guy who was the macrobiotic guy, who you become self-realized by brown rice. You know how he died? Malnutrition on a brown rice fast. That's an eye-opener. True story. That's a real eye-opener. The devotees asked him, you follow somebody, where did they wind up? How did they leave their body? What was their state of consciousness? I said, well, that's a good question, So I inquired about George Osawa, the head of MAC. He died of malnutrition on a brown rice fast. So obviously not a success path. So I remember Badrinarayan swami. We used to go after the Sunday feast. It was at noon in L.A. in the La Cienega Temple. He used to go out to Griffith Park in L.A., and he would put on these puppet shows, playing all the parts. It was just, he was a charismatic, amazing personality. Because we were talking about Badrinarayan the other day. So, and he was a prasadam hound, just like Sariputta was a prasadam. He would knock off. Prabhupada said you can eat like a horse if, Zach? You work like a horse. But if you work like a bird, you got to eat like a bird, So Badrinarayan swami, I don't even know. Sometimes he did not sleep sometimes at night. At least as far as I'd go to bed sometimes 10:30. He'd be awake working on something. We'd get up, whatever it was. He'd already be up. He'd been up for an hour or two. So he had an amazing personality. So I was sitting next to him one time, and he was taking prasadam. About 5 or 6 guests around him, preaching to all of them. Such an attractive, amazing person. And he blazed through about 3 or 4 plates of prasadam. 3 full plates, guaranteed. And there was a macrobiotic guy, and he was very carefully, mindfully chewing. I think you're supposed to chew. You were ever involved in that? You're supposed to chew each morsel a certain number of times? 24, is that what it is? 40 times. So, this guy's working on his samosa. And Badrinarayan, zing, 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 And the guy said to him, you're not very mindful. And Vishnujana said, I'm taking prasadam quickly so I have energy to go out and serve Krishna. He wanted to take prasadam, round up the devotees, get out to Griffith Park and go. You know, we all took off. This guy was working on his first samosa still, you know. Hey, well, wait for me, you know. So, what is the essence of the thing? What is the purpose of the thing? That's what the devotees know. Just like later on, I mean, we don't have much time, but the... well, I'll say that and then I'll say this. There's a whole, and Daksha is describing it later on. There's a whole, I mean not Daksha, Sati. There's a whole school of thought how to act properly. Like what does Krishna mean when he says, well, I'll say it in a second. There's a whole group, how to act properly, according to all of the Vedic Karma Kanda regulations. Yama, how to do everything properly. Then there's another whole school of thought, how to become renounced, how to become detached. And it's a big discussion, whether you have to act properly or whether you give up everything. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? One who finds action and inaction is the true knower of things. What? Is that like what's the sound of one hand clapping? What does it mean, inaction? Damodar Kumara, how can there be inaction? Like I know you know. I want to put them on the spot so it soaks in their heads. How can there be inaction? If there's action, there's karma. Yeah, you act for Krishna. And how can there be action and inaction? How can there be karma? You're just sitting still. The Jain, he's wearing the mask so he doesn't breathe in any bugs. And he has somebody sweeping in front of him so he's not stepping on any bugs. I remember thinking, well, but the guy sweeping in front of you is your agent. He's stepping on bugs on your behalf. So I remember I was a kid. I was reading a National Geographic. And I love, whatever. So I was reading it. I was reading about India and the Jains, and I was thinking, and explained that, he's got a mask, somebody sweeps in front of him. I said, well, the guy in front of him who's sweeping, he's doing it on his behest. So the karma's still coming. I said, well, you get a guy who sweeps in front of you. Well, then you get two guys sweep. But, it's an infinite regress. I was probably 8 years old. I was thinking, I said, I guess the only way you could do it was go in a circle. If you went in a circle, but there was the initial guy who had to sweep the so, I mean, you can't do it. How can you do it? The desire to become desireless is a self-centered desire. Work your way out of that one. I want to become happy. I want to become peaceful. I want to become free from karma. I want. Prabhupada said, as soon as you say, I want, you're off the bhakti platform. So the desire to become desireless is a selfless desire. So all these were rattling around in my head. What to do, Am I like the Jain? I say, you won't get too far. I don't see society progressing if everyone strictly follows Jainism and is going in a circle. I mean, that's not going to get you too far. And a self-centered desire to become desireless, that's a self-centered desire. So that's not the answer. And to be a foolish, fruitive materialist, that's empty and shallow, and that just piles up stacks of karma. What do? A friend of mine, so actually he was a friend, because he played Prabhupada's that Happening album, and Prabhupada reads the address by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Isn't it the Govindam prayers? Oh, where is it? It's the one where he says, Prabhupada said, it was the light went on. Prabhupada says, the devotees have no desire to fulfill. And I was thinking, oh, well, is that like Buddhism? But that leads me to the same place. Hey, are you just a rock? You're just inanimate, frozen in time and space? And even then your mind's racing. What to do, I had a friend, I had samadhi on a Coke bottle for 3 hours. Somehow or other, all of his senses became fixed on a Coke bottle, I thought, well, first off, it's only 2 hours, and where did that get you, samadhi on a Coke bottle? Coke is not the real thing. His samadhi was not the real thing. So I thought, well, so what to do? Prabhupada said, the devotees have no desire. Still, they have variegated transcendental desires to satisfy their Lord in loving service. And my whole world changed. They have no desire, no personal desire, but they're full of desires. How to serve Krishna in loving service. And they can serve, we all have personality. We like to serve Krishna in this way or that way. And there's unlimited ways you can serve Krishna. Unlimited rasas and flavors and mixes. Perfect answer. So Sati is saying, you are a fruitive materialist. You can't understand the yogis, the Vedavits, the knowers of the Vedas. No one can understand. Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava. He's a transcendentalist. He's absorbed in the service of the Lord. And therefore, you can't understand what he does. Prabhupada, famous example of, we're going to go 5 minutes over. Who was that weasel? I'm sorry, but there it is. No, Ramakrishna. We're off the track, but it's worth it. I mean, we should be careful. Austerity of speech is to speak the truth, but in a way that doesn't offend, according to the Vedas. But the Gaudiya Math, disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, had a program they used to do with the Ramakrishna Mission. And it was a big success, big kirtan, big speaking, a lot of people coming, prasadam. Here's the story Prabhupada tells. They went out, sannyasis, brahmacharis, literally came running back through the gates of the Gaudiya Math, slammed the door with an angry mob after them. What happened? The sannyasis brought this one young brahmachari, relatively new young brahmachari, by the scruff of the neck and brought him before Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. This rash brahmachari has ruined our whole program. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, what did he do? So he asked the brahmachari, what did you say? He said he was simply serving prasadam, a young brahmachari serving prasadam, and some big donor asked, and what do you think of Ramakrishna? And the little brahmachari said, oh, my spiritual master says he's a fool and a rascal. Boom! It's Bengal. I mean, the whole thing just blew up, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, very good. He was very pleased that they spoke this. He's a cheater. He's a rascal, Fool and a rascal. So I don't know exactly how he got off on that. There's a picture of Ramakrishna. And someone's offering him a 10 rupee note. And he's going. So they told Prabhupada the story. Someone told Prabhupada, impressed, that, they offered him a 10 rupee note. And he would shunned it like it was, garbage in the street. Prabhupada said, they can take a picture of me raking it in, And this Mr. Nair, he cheated several other people for the Jew who were waiting with anticipation and bated breath for Giriraj Maharaj's wonderful book that will describe this. But Mr. Nair had cheated a couple other people. And he thought, this simple Swami, he's a sadhu. He'll be easy to cheat. And Prabhupada, do you know Prabhupada said, he was talking about in an argument, you know how a little dog defeats a big dog? How does a little dog defeat a big dog? Zach. They grab on to one spot and they don't let go. And if you ever watch Prabhupada with that Cardinal Danilou, that French guy, who was found dead on the steps of a brothel. He'd actually died of a heart attack inside, and to save the guys what remained of his integrity, they dragged him out on the steps. But he actually had a heart attack inside. Prabhupada called him on that. He said, whatever. We're off the track. But the point is that you watch, Prabhupada says, Jesus says, thou shalt not kill. Killing animals. You're killing animals. And the guy tries to get out of it. And he finally says, can't we talk about higher things? Prabhupada said, where's the question of talking about higher things when you can't understand lower things? I mean, Prabhupada just grabs on and doesn't let go, and he keeps hammering and hammering and hammering. So that's how you do it. So Prabhupada would not let go of that land. Even the devotees gave it back. Even so, Prabhupada said, fine, you all leave, take the money we collected, you can buy buses, And you can travel all over India, but you'll park them on this property. We'll use it as a parking lot. And he's probably said, you get me a chair, and I will sit on that property. I will not leave. So Prabhupada appeared to be extremely attached, but for Krishna. And an example is, we don't have time to go into it, but the way he got the Detroit temple. I mean, Prabhupada was to watch it happen. And I got to watch the thing happen. I mean, it was just Prabhupada completely bewildered, bamboozled, got the discount lowest price possible. The guy, Prabhupada, when he left, and the guy complained, he said, your Swami must have hypnotized me. Prabhupada said, I'm an old Calcutta boy, you know. But he got the beautiful Devasadan Mandir. Prabhupada said, for a price, each room was worth the price. And when we went to get the building insured, the guy said, this is not replacement. We're giving you a fix. The building was insured for $10 million or $5 million, and you can do the inflation, you know. That was 1977. So do the inflation rate. But the man said, this is not replacement. He said, you know, you can't find this blue marble from Brazil. You can't find people who carve like this rosewood. We cannot replace this building. Prabhupada said each room was worth the price Prabhupada got it for, which is true. And when the papers were signed, Prabhupada didn't even spend the night in the building. When the building was ours, you know, somebody gets it's a big fight and they get the building, you know, they call it a victory lap or whatever. Prabhupada was on the plane. Prabhupada, you know, he didn't, you saw it, Prabhupada joked about his room in Bombay, you know. It was the same as his when he was staying in Radha Damodar. He had his little trunk that he had a desk, he had a little place he cooked, and he had a nice window. And the setup was exactly, I mean, he had a fancy carved desk, but it was the same, you know. Prabhupada sat on his desk, looked out the window, took a little prasadam, and served Krishna. Giriraj, maybe it's in his book, but Giriraj Maharaj told me, he came home from a program late one night. You know, in India, the programs, you know, he goes home late, and then, you know, you got to drive, and there's traffic. So he got back about 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night, and he was well trained by Prabhupada not to waste. He saw that the light was on in Prabhupada's darshan room, and he was thinking, you know, it's 11:30, 12 o'clock. Prabhupada would usually go to sleep and get up early. So he thought, oh, Prabhupada's asleep. So without going, he didn't want to make any noise, so he just slid his hand, opened the door crack, slid his hand around and flicked the light off. And you heard, oh, Prabhupada was up. And so Giriraj Maharaj turned the light off and said, I'm sorry, Prabhupada, I thought you were sleeping. Prabhupada said, I don't sleep very much. Prabhupada said, actually, I don't sleep very much. I don't eat very much. There's no question of defending or sex. So no eating, no sleeping, no mating, defending. Prabhupada smiled and said, perhaps I'm liberated. I mean, Prabhupada was far beyond that, you know. There's also, there's a newspaper reporter is trying to get an idea of Prabhupada's schedule, and she picked up on it. She said, wait. You travel all the time. You're writing all the time. You hardly ever sleep. You're working so hard. She was appreciating, you know, Prabhupada's life. And Prabhupada said, I don't eat, I don't sleep, you know. He said, I don't cost very much. He said, I'm a very good investment for my disciples. You know, minimal investment and maximum return. So for a transcendentalist, they're not absorbed like the fool. They appear to be. That's the first line in this purport. They appear to be like the materialists. Prabhupada was, for Christian devotees, are extremely attached. My father's first job was for Marsh & McLennan, an insurance company, and one of his first, accounts. One of his was the Los Angeles Catholic Diocese. And he said, those celibate priests, he said, you turn your back on them, they'd leave you in your boxer shorts. He said it was the toughest account he ever, and on one hand it's because they were doing it for God. I mean, I'll give them some credit. They were like brahmacharis. Some of them were rats, but some of them were like brahmacharis. And just like a devotee, I mean, the devotees get the best deal for Krishna. We're famous for it, you know. Don't even, you know. So, and the one last thing, and we'll be done, I promise. This business of just doing our duty, It may sound mundane as root work. But I was looking in Bhagavad Gita, there's that same verse where it says, one should not never give up one's prescribed duties, not do a duty of another. There's that, section in Bhagavad Gita. And I read it, and then it reminded me of there's a section in the perfection of renunciation, and in the Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada makes the point about duties. What does Krishna say? And I promise you, this is the last thing we'll say. When one gives up one's duty, Arjuna asks Krishna, what causes us to get knocked off track? We have our duty, we're fixed in our role, we know what we're supposed to do. What causes us to be knocked off? What does Krishna say in the Gita? What is Krishna's answer to Arjuna? It's one thing that knocks us off duty. You can say it, Dravida Prabhu. It is lust only that knocks us off. And then Prabhupada describes in those purports, in the purports of the 18th chapter, everyone is controlled by the mind. We're knocked this way, we're knocked that way, we're controlled by lust and desire. How do you conquer it? And Prabhupada in the purports gives the example of the yogi who's sitting under the water for, 60,000 years. First the ankle bells, that he burns her to ashes. Then she comes and tries it again. First he falls down. Next time he burns her to ashes. So attachment and aversion, neither of those works. There's the yogi who was under the sea and saw the fish copulating and got distracted. And so there's so many things. What to do? What is it that controls the mind and the senses? What is the lifeline thrown to us in the ashram? What is it that appears to be mundane activity, housework, but is actually the lifeline thrown by our spiritual master to control the mind? What is it? Our regulated duties. Oh, I got to do the plates. I got to fold the laundry. Look at Ryan. I mean, Ryan is like dedicated. And he does a nice job folding, too. I don't want to embarrass him. He folds not. It's for Krishna, But, devotees say, I've got to do the artik. I've got to cook the offering. Like, no, you don't have to do a thing. You can go home to your mother, And, I joined for higher things. I've had people tell me that, I came to study. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he would get a big scholar, what was the first thing he would make them do? Wash pots. He'd put them in the kitchen. If he didn't put them in the latrine, cleaning the toilets. He would have them washing pots. Because that's how the mind, I want, I think, I need, I am. Who the hell? I mean, Prabhupada would say that sometimes. I slipped out. But, who do we think we are? We don't know. So when the mind, mind, my dear mind, I want to be, I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to do that. I'm a big preacher. I'm not going to wash the pots. I'm a big this. No. So regulated duties in the temple, going out on book distribution, following a schedule, those are the lifeline. It is what the great yogis accomplished by sitting in the forest fires on each side, or up to their neck in the freezing cold water, or living in the Himalayan cave on one chickpea, just to try to steady the mind. We're getting it by regulated devotional service, by being a wheel in the cog of ISKCON, by helping. Prabhupada said, keep the wheels turning. By doing our duty, we jump over the heads, just like Daksha couldn't understand, and the yogis couldn't understand. They couldn't understand Ambarish Maharaj. Tavarsa Muni could not understand Ambarish. It is the lifeline, that simple, humble, steady devotional service. And on that note, we can end. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to give you all new schedules. It was all the setup. Govinda.
Secularized, somewhat secularized, because the original intent is very here right now in this moment.
Oh no,
That's not easy to do.
No, I appreciate. I mean,
But it's been manipulated. It's been
even so.
It's been
And the
sanitized.
ultimate issue, the mind has to be anchored to something. And unless you're anchored to Christian and Christian service, you can sit still. You can, but ultimately, it's not going to deliver you, and you're going to come back again, and who knows where you're going to be in your next life. But also, you can't actually sustain it. Whereas it's easy for devotees. I mean, I've seen devotees offer arti in their sleep. I have. Have you ever seen it? I've seen it. And Prabhupada mentions it in one class. I've seen it. Yeah, we had a devotee, his name was Jamuna Tatachara. And we were in sleeping bags, and his arms would be going like this, and his other arm would be going like this. He'd be offering arti in his sleep.
wow.
A nice devotee. I wonder what I have to find out what happened.